Behind the Shades.
Parents struggle in their marriage, so they became an alcoholics and lost well-paid jobs. And my home government turned off electricity and hot water for outstanding bills. And we struggle in poverty, trying to survive. I literally was hungry all the time. Um, my home was infested with like mold, cockroaches, and mice. And it was full of strangers. They brought booze and drugs. So my parents did nothing to protect me. So I became an easy target for those guys from very young age. So I've been drugged in the basement of my own apartment and raped. So when I thought things couldn't get any worse, 1 month before my 15th birthday, I woke up with severe abdominal pain. So scared and confused, only to realize I was in labor. I didn't know I was pregnant, and I didn't know who her father was. So my baby died 3 months later from health complications, and I buried her when I was 15 years old. I carried her casket in my arms to the cemetery, but then like this image plagued my mind and my soul for the next 20 years. I turned to heroin and alcohol to try to medicate my pain because it was easier to be high than feeling worthless, hopeless, helpless, and so broken. I suffered with anxiety and panic attacks and was seeking that escape in the drugs that helped me actually to just be numb. And few years went by, and around 18 years old, I have this awakening that people were dying around me. They went to jail, and I was just so tired being on the street and that lifestyle. So I was looking for the escape, but there's no hopes and dreams for people like me. I was street junkie, like cemetery or jail, yes, but nothing really else. So then, like, honestly, through my mutual friend, I met this lady. Oh my goodness, she looked like a celebrity. And she invited me to her house. She offered me this fancy coffee and sweet. And she was so beautiful and so kind. And literally, it felt like wonderful and safe. And somebody cared for me for first time, for like first time in a very long time. So when she said she offered me a job, no specific, just a job, I agree, eager to escape. I thought she genuinely want to help. Then her team went to work. They cleaned me up, they dressed me up, they get me the passport and all this stuff. So there was a moment, because I'm still on drugs and I'm like young and naive, that I thought, what kind of job I gonna be doing? But there was so much attention, so much intention to make me feel better or be better, that literally just camouflage all my worries and fears. So I just did whatever they asked me to do. So they're still on heavy drugs. I vaguely remember airport and how I went through customs. I'll never know. Just one morning, I woke up hearing Muslim prayer, Allahu Akbar, run out. So I realized that I wasn't in my own country anymore. So that nice lady actually sold me into human trafficking into foreign country. So there was like two guys that accompany my 5 girls. And that's what I'm doing right now too. I'm advocating for survivors of human trafficking. And I want to create awareness, because sometimes we watching those movies like Taken, we thinking it's like force or abuse or kidnapping involved. And of course it can happen. But guess what? I went through customs. I was in a airport. I had no documents. There was another 4 girls with me. There was 2 men who actually was speaking for me. So that's the red flags I would like people to think about and know about, because then they can question those things. of course, like not everybody is a predator and you have to use common sense. There's like the people with children or anything like that, you have to see. But in that situation, I was like super high, and somebody like took care of my documents and spoke for me. So those signs you have to look for, because most of the predators and traffickers using and manipulating through fear or through any other psychological means. So you don't even see no signs of abuse or any kidnapping of force. So I just want to point that out. So I end up in Cairo, Egypt, and actually they forced us to crawl under the barbed wire, crossing the border illegally into Israel. And in Israel, they sold all of us in different brothels. So I end up in Tel Aviv, but I actually realized that was very important what place you end up with, because the girls who came with me, they went missing, some die, or they, it's just that one road and some people not coming back from. So although it was horrible situation and you guys thinking like, oh my gosh, she was sold, but you already heard my story. You know, I was actually by default, I quit heroin and I didn't die from withdrawal. So I was clean from drugs. I was clean physically. I was dressed, I was fed and make some money. So all those human basic needs were met for me. So for me, it was a great, you know. But the coolest part that in the brothel, one of the bodyguard actually shared the good news of God's love with me. So um, and God answered the prayers for me. So that's what triggered me want to live that kind of lifestyle and be better. But it didn't happen like overnight. It was almost 2 years went by. And honestly, in most cases, you would never leave this situation alive. So I want to make sure that you guys know that my story, one of the miraculous one, well, unless you have been rescued, but by the grace of God, they allowed me to go home after almost 2 years. So I came home, and one of my bodyguards cheated me out of all of my possessions that I accumulate over 2 years. And my trustworthy aunt stole all my money that I was saving because I thought I gonna start a new life. So literally, I come back home with nothing, and I went straight up on heroin because I felt so betrayed. I had so much anxiety again and anger, and just was so overwhelmed that people who I trust, and like it's take me time to trust people, you know, and they still um rob me this way. So I needed lots of drugs and I didn't have money. So I just ended up being right hand of the number one drug dealer in my city, because then I had unlimited amount of drugs and influence and money. But then I actually realized in a couple years of that lifestyle that I'm gonna die. I just gonna have unlimited amount of drugs. I'm gonna end up in the cemetery. So second time, I actually sold myself into trafficking willingly, but they brought me to Canada. So in Canada, I realized I have a paper trail. So I escape the human traffickers and end up in shelter, and end up seeking like my rights. Like somebody said that in Canada I have rights. And it's funny, I was over 20 years old, and for the first time I heard somebody said to me that in this country you have rights, human rights. I didn't know I have human rights. So that was interesting, really like huge mindset shift, because I realized that I have an opportunity to start a new life. So I signed up for the English course, the CEL classes, English as a second language, from level 0. And I finished that, and I went to cosmetology a course as well. I finished that as well. I got my diplomas. I've been hairstylist for like always almost for 12 years, and I have my hair salon for 2 years. And then I start hearing this. I believe that God just put me on different path, because he said this is not the work you should be doing. And while I was working in my salon, I actually was working on my manuscript. So I closed my business, I published my book, and now I'm speaker, I'm published author, I have my own podcast, and I'm sharing my story openly to inspire, encourage, and have hope. And honestly, I do believe there is chance to have love and peace and joy after any trauma that you went through. So now I'm mama of three beautiful, healthy children. I have a beautiful, healthy marriage. I have a husband who crazy for me, and I'm for him, you know. I have beautiful, clean home, and I have peace in my mind, body, and soul. And that's what I'm advocating for. There is this miraculous transformation that is possible, you know, and I just want to make somebody life better. Hopefully they can hear my story and they say, like, if she can do it, I can do it.